categories, school attendance, work attendance, shall be 40%, of the ultimate decision. I mean, maybe that's a broader question than this, Bill, but you get what I'm saying?
I understand what you're saying. I think probably bankers as well as the credit union can talk to, some of them are doing some of that already, so they could probably give you some guidance on how that's done. You would like to hear about that?
Sure. Thank you.
Okay. Do we want to hear from someone from either or both? Okay, Bob Denton wants to talk. Bob Denton wants to talk. Go ahead, Bob.
Thank you very much. And Delegate Pippi, I think that what the bill will do, first of all, under the federal law, there are no weighting requirements that you weight, you weight the credit score this much, you weight this factor that much, this factor that much. But the federal regulations that are cited do talk about, what you should consider. And now we're taking a step further, and we're saying that under Maryland law, if the borrower presents you this information, you shall consider it. Now, how much weight they're going to give? You tell me, how much weight are we going to give to their junior high school attendance? Maybe not much. On the other hand, if they give us information about their mortgage payments or this or that, maybe if it's a close call, maybe that'll tip it, one way or the other. I mean, banks want to make the loan. Believe me, that's their goal. And if this gives them another basis upon which to make the loan that they're comfortable with, that their federal regulators are comfortable with, that's fine. It doesn't require that we make the loan just because they've given us this information. But it says if they give it to us, we'll take a look at it and think about it. We're okay with that.
Delegate Mouse.
Thanks, Chairman. Yeah, I kind of have a follow-up question along the lines of Delegate Pippi's question. It's probably Bob Menton. It's probably best for Bob. But so I just don't understand why it has shall. I don't want to get hung up on this, but why it has shall instead of may. And I guess the question is there any limit on what a lending institution can take into consideration now before issuing its lending? Is there some things do they have discretion to do this already? That's the best way to pose the question. They already have discretion.
Want me to respond, Madam Chairman? I can respond to that if you'd like.
Sure, go ahead.
Okay, so the requirements are that you have to consider the credit worthiness of the borrower, and you're required by statute as the number one priority is to consider the borrower's ability to repay. And that's the number one requirement, both under state law and federal law for lending. You have to consider the borrower's ability to repay. And then I think, it's kind of up, it's up to the lender when they look at it to think, well, okay, based on the credit score, based on this, based on that, we think, based on the amount of money the borrower may have in a bank account, or based on their pension, whatever. We're going to look at the whole range of items. That's why these loan applications are so lengthy. And the credit score is just, one piece of it. But the overall requirement is to look at the borrower's ability to repay and make a sound and reasonable decision. Banks got in trouble back in 2000, 2008, 2007 when the bottom fell out of the real estate market because the allegation was they weren't considering the borrower's ability to repay. And so now, for the federal and state law were changed to make that the number one priority that you have to consider. But there's a variety of factors that go into evaluating that. And once again, we didn't really focus on shall versus may here because it just said, if they give it to us, we'll look at it. That's all. But we will. If they give it to us, then you can't give it to me, and it's going to be up to me to show if you want to challenge me on it that did you consider this? Yes.
So you can already.
That's the answer.
You can already ask an applicant for history of mortgage payments and their history of utility payments and things like that. You can already do that, right?
I think we can if they're submitted. This would require us to consider it if it's submitted in accordance with the federal law. We don't have a problem with it. And neither do the credit unions, neither do the non-mortgage lenders that Chris DePietro represents. Everybody signed off on this.
Can I just chime in for 1 second? I think if anything, this won't make a significant change to the way that lenders are already looking at this information. What it may impact, possibly in a positive way, would be the biggest thing with our whole ability to repay determinations or anything that has to go in the lending process is how can you explain your decisions on these type of non-quantitative measures? How can you explain them and why you use them to your regulator? So I think this will give state chartered financial institutions a little bit more confidence that if they are using these type of non-quantitative measures, they can explain it better to the regulator because the state is obviously encouraging that.
Understood. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Any other questions? Okay. So did we have to move favorable with amendments?
You already have that.
Okay.
You did.
So can we take the vote now, please?
Right. Delegate Adams,
Aye.
Delegate Crosby is he here yet? No. Okay.
No, he's
Delegate-
excused.
Okay, Delegate
Hold on.
Fennell,
I thought I saw her. Excused, I guess.
okay, Delegate Jackson,
Aye.
Delegate Meltz,
Aye.
Delegate Pippy,
Aye.
Delegate Rogers,
Aye.
Delegate Watson.
Aye.
Okay, it's 6, 2 excused and then 0.
All right, thank you for that. All right, let's go to HB 106. This, again, I think came in favorable with one amendment, but I think we've heard from the Office of Attorney General that says they're doing this now. So you want to describe this bill as well, please, Council?
Absolutely. House Bill 106 from Delegate Wilson expands the Maryland Telephone Consumer Protection Act by requiring the Office of the Attorney General to maintain a website where a consumer can report robocalls and spam calls, provide information to the public informing consumers on how to identify and report spam calls. And it also requires the Office of the Attorney General to notify the Federal Trade Commission of each report it receives through the website regarding a robocall or other spam call. There was one amendment, and this amendment is, it's a technical amendment which changes the definition to align, it changes the definition of automatic dialer to align with the federal definition.
So, I don't know what we want to do with this. We could, I don't know if we need to pass the bill, or do we send a letter to the Office of Attorney General to say, do this? But I'm looking for your dialogue. Yes, Delegate.
Madam Chair. I have a question. When you say this came in favorable with amendment, what do you mean by that?
Oh, sorry about that. All the testimony was favorable and is only had one
Okay,
testify to say, have that clarifying amendment. I didn't have any
okay,
opposition testimony, so I'm sorry about that. I should have been clear about that. We didn't have any opposition testimony, but we did have a letter from the Office of Attorney General saying we already do this.
okay, thank you.
To say, sorry about that. That was unclear. Steve Wengel.
Right, thank you. Yeah, as Chair said, and this is basically stuff that we're already doing. We do accept complaints from consumers about robocalls. We do, where we're able to identify that somebody is spamming people. In most cases, we're not able to because they're using spoofed phone numbers. We can bring enforcement actions. We do a lot of consumer education, but in this area, most of what has to be done to address the robocall issue has to be done by the Federal Communications Commission as well as the carriers. And we have entered into a set of principles with the carriers that hopefully you'll help address some of it. And also, hopefully the FCC will give the carriers more authority to shut down spoof numbers and robocalls. But I'm not sure the bill does much. It's not happening now, and probably wouldn't have much of an impact on the area of robocalls. So,
Madam Chair,
Delegate Adams.
you know what CT Wilson would say? If we're already doing it, then what's the problem passing the bill?
That's true too, but he also would say when it's something that's done by the federal government, like that's not our bailiwick too. So I'm kind of between Channel and CT Wilson here, but I'll take that into consideration.
That was my dialogue.
Delegate Pippi, then Delegate Motz.
Thank you,
Watson.
Madam Chair. I guess this is a question for Steve.
mm-hmm.
So the bill requires setting up a website, I would imagine a user-friendly website for the public to kind of find out if they've been spoofed or what other calls. So the Office of the Attorney General, you guys have a website set up specifically for this, or you're handling it through a different avenue?
We don't have anything specifically dedicated to robocalls. We do have the Attorney General's website where consumers can file complaints, and we do take complaints about robocalls via the website. And the bill would also require us to come up with advertising, which is something we do a lot of consumer education, but advertising would be an expense that we don't currently incur. So, I mean, there are a lot of areas where, it might be useful to have a dedicated website, but I don't know that this is an area that having one would be so important that we would need to make it separate from the Attorney General's existing complaint website.
Yeah, I mean, I get dozens of these calls a day, and they use like numbers identical to mine, so it looks like somebody, your neighbor's calling you. But if we can't do anything about it outside of federal action, I mean, is there something just spitballing here? I mean, can we send a letter from the Maryland General Assembly to our federal representatives? I mean, I don't know if creating a website, unless the website can do something, like if you're put on that list, it somehow does something. I don't know.
We've been working jointly with other states on the issue for years, and we've petitioned the FCC. We've entered into the set of principles with 49 other states, with the carriers that, for them to take action. So we have been working on this at the federal level jointly with other states, because it's not just a Maryland problem, it's a national problem.
All right, thank you.
Okay. Delegate Motz.
Yeah. Steve, would this give your office any more resources?
We did put in a fiscal note, but I don't think that we would get any additional funds if experience,
Yeah, I mean, I gotta be honest with you. I am all in. This is a horrible thing that's going on. There's a huge gap in enforcement, both individually. I've got a senior mother at home. 80% of her phone calls are scammers that call, and she's getting older. And you and I, we worked on cases, back on the shore where they used this robocall to get in, and they got the person, the victim, to turn over their life savings. I remember that in Westchester County. And it just, every time I've been working on robocalls and this type of fraudulent activity back to you wouldn't believe it, but 2006, 2007, when I was a staffer. And it's the same, we did the same thing over and over again. And I feel like if we don't just actually enact something and do something and put a stake in the ground. All the states have been working on this and the FCC has been talking about it, but nobody's actually done something. And it may be anti-conservative of me or whatever, but it's something's got to stick on the wall at some point. And I just don't know how to make it, maybe you get it up there and find out we need to do something else to make it more effective. And I know the Attorney General's office is doing as much as he can to keep up with this. I didn't know if there's anything that you find slightly beneficial. I just see it as an organ for my constituents. I mean, would you agree that this provides at least the general public a source of information about robocalls where they can find out kind of some more information about robocalls? I guess.
Delegate Mouse, we do have educational materials on our website. We also give talks, throughout the state. Not recently, we have done some through Zoom where we try to educate consumers about how to deal with robocalls, how to cut down on them. So we do have efforts in that area.
I can't even do to-go business in my business. I'm to talk about that, but there are places that cannot do to-go business in their business because all they get are robocalls, so nobody wants to answer the phone. I mean, it's amazing what a problem it is. I'm way off the rails. I apologize. Thank you, Chairman.
Delegate Watson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. When I first heard this bill, I was trying to figure out sort of if we did do this, would we be setting expectations and do we need to manage expectations about what the state can actually do about this with our consumers? But on the other hand, I agree that it's a big problem. And it seems to me that tracking this and maybe amending the bill to require an annual report about the amount of traffic that we're getting in complaints will give us more data and allow us to either lobby federal government or find something else within state government to help our constituents. So I think I've turned around on this bill and I think it's a good bill if we add a reporting function to it so that we can get something from the data. And Mr. Sakamoto Wengel, what do you think about that?
We'd be happy to report. We could report now on our complaints without legislation. So like I said, a lot of it, because it's spoofed numbers, it's hard to identify where the calls are actually coming from. But
you don't have a systemic way of collecting the information. I mean, you get individual complaints, but if you had an educational program, if there was a dedicated website, if you collected, maybe it's a spoof number, but if you collected the number, whether or not it was a spoof number, geographic location, whether or not it was an attempt at sales, whether or not the person thought it was fraud, what was the category of call? I mean, that could be really beneficial information.
If you want, I can try to see what I can get you as far as a report and get that to the committee as far as the complaints we do get.
Do you even know what information you collect at this point, like off the top of your head?
We do, if the consumer is able to give us the number, we'll collect the number. If there is a scam involved, we will identify it as being a scam and possibly the type of scam.
Do you collect location, or do we know if they're targeting lower socioeconomic, higher socioeconomic? Do we know any of that?
We don't collect that information with our complaints. But I can try to get you what we do have. So,
Madam Chair, what I would suggest the committee consider is adding a clause in here that would require a report and be specific about what we're asking, such as demographic information and geographic information. If we have a website that has, fill in the blank, it should be easy enough to collect. And then I think we'd have more data, but I need your all's sort of opinion on what we should be collecting besides the things that I've mentioned. because I'm certainly not an expert. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Delegate Jackson.
Thanks, Madam Chair. I was actually going to say something similar to what Delegate Watson was saying. I think if we have a website kind of collecting all that data, that might be very helpful in lobbying our federal partners on trying to resolve this. That being said, I know a lot of robocalls are now using this ghost calling technology. So, I mean, maybe the website could have something about that. I mean, because a lot of robocalls I get, if I call them back, it's someone's personal number and they didn't call me. So it was like a ghost call. So I think that's another thing, but maybe a website could track that, So I kind of lean more to what Delegate Watson was suggesting. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Delegate Rogers.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So, I mean, I start off one way and now I'm almost back in the other direction. But I want to make sure I have clarification. So my understanding from Mr. is that we're already doing this.
Mhm.
And so if we're already doing it, certainly that begs the question, as Delegate Wilson would say, then why are we trying to pass a bill to do it? But more to Delegate Watson's point and Delegate Jackson's point, and to a certain degree, Delegate Mouse's point, what are the additional resources Mr. Sakamoto Wingo would be required, i.e. is there going to be a fiscal note and is there an additional requirement monetarily to enact this if we're going to be required to do the reporting that we're asking for?
Yeah, I think the additional expenses would come in, setting up a web page to collect the information. Like, so we already do collect information from the complaints we get. So that would have to involve our IT department, putting together the web page, plus the advertising component is something we don't currently have the resources to do. We do a lot of consumer education. We prepare materials. We do talks around the state, but we don't currently do advertising. And so that would be an additional expense that we would incur if the bill were to pass as is.
So we don't, at this point, we don't really have, I'm sorry, Madam Chair, if I could ask a follow. So right now, we don't really know what that would look like in terms of, say, an extra person, 2 extra people. Because I don't think it's going to be free. I don't know that, and I guess I should, and as Madam Vice Chair would say, are you able to do that within existing resources? Is that so?
Yeah, I mean, I think that we might be able to just add a dedicated web page with existing resources. The advertising requirement, though, that would involve expenses, and I'm not quite sure what all those expenses would entail as far as production, as far as placement of the advertising, whether we'd be able to have it considered PSAs that the television stations would run for free, at 2 a.m. or whenever they run the PSAs. But that would be an additional expense. But so this is all stuff that we're generally doing now. And I'd be happy to try to get the committee, what data we do have. Because, once again, because these are generally spoofed numbers, it's hard to tell where they're coming from. So the caller is the person getting the call generally isn't going to know where the call is coming from. And with a fake number, we're not going to be able to trace it either. the phone companies might be able to trace it. But it's going to need to have AT&T and Verizon and the other carriers, you're being able to do more to stop people from being able to use spoofed numbers.
So I see three more hands. What I want to do, if we could possibly do that for this bill, if we have amendments, let's consider them here. And if we do vote out the bill, we will have time before it goes from committee to get a fiscal note or any of those things in place. So at least as a way of moving forward, if we think we want to move this forward, let's get the amendments that we would need, and then we can get the fiscal note by the time we go to full committee. Otherwise, we need to decide, is this worth us continuing? Is that reasonable? And I'm gonna go to the next two people. I think I had Mouse. Jackson, did we finish you, or this is a new hand?
Oh, this was a new hand.
Okay, so Mouse, I think Watson, and then Jackson, okay?
Thank you, Chairman. I'll be very quick in listening to my colleagues. How about a report, much like the informational reports that the Attorney General makes available to citizens? The Public Information Act report is a great example. It's a very lengthy document, but a report for individuals on how to deal with robocalls, because a lot of people get them, but you can actually move the ball forward in collecting information. If you were to give people direction on where to submit the information, how to stop a robocall, and you could break it out, robocalls for seniors, fraud prevention, robocalls for youth, because they are robocalling our children and getting them to buy things for fraud. And you can also break it out. I'd mentioned the business robocall. How does a business protect itself from robocalls? And you may want to provide some legal guidance in there, because there may be some things that citizens can do that they don't have an access to a lawyer to get recommendations on how best to handle their privacy and their phone. What would you think about that, Mr. Sakamoto Wengel? I apologize, I called you Steve earlier.
That's fine, Delegate. I mean, we'd be happy to report on what we get. We don't, and we do have a number of educational materials on the subject already. I don't know if you saw a copy of the letter I submitted. Unfortunately, I submitted it after the hearing, so it wasn't part of the original packet, but that does include links to some of the educational materials we already have.
I guess the idea I'm suggesting as part of an amendment, if we're going to do an amendment, is include direction for the Attorney General's office to organize all this in one place where people, so as a delegate, as a representative, when people call us with problems, we can go to this specific place in the Attorney General's office and all your questions are answered. And you could also incorporate the numbers, the fact, the information that Delegate Watson was mentioning. I'd throw that out as a suggestion for everyone, and any comments that you have about that.
Okay, Delegate Watson.
Yes, ma'am. Mr. Sakamoto Wengel, if I go to the Maryland Attorney General website, on the left-hand side under the banner, there's a red button that says file a consumer complaint. This must be what you're talking about.
Yes.
So on that drop-down menu, there's general complaint, healthcare complaint, landlord-tenant complaint, new home construction complaint, new car warranty complaint, auto repair complaint. Seems to me, if you pull up one of those pages, you have all the boxes to fill out. It seems to me it wouldn't be that difficult to add, what would you call it even, scam, robocall complaint or something like that, to add another section. And then collecting the information just goes into a spreadsheet. So we're not talking about a lot in terms of compiling the data. What I would like to suggest I would like to make a motion that the committee ask the council to draft an amendment which requires an annual report from the Attorney General based on this legislation that includes the number of complaints by month, the geographic location that is being called into, demographic information about the the recipient of the call, category of the call, so that we know whether it, you know, whether it's sales, whether it's it's up to the Attorney General to figure out what the categories are, but sales or fraud or, you know, transfer of bank money, whatever, and the date and time of day. And any other information the Attorney General thinks is relevant to the public's knowledge. Because I think if we can get this report, the more the public knows, the better off we are. And so that would be my motion, that we have that amendment drafted with that information and any other information that is requested. Do I have a second?
The delegate is looking for a second to her motion.
Second.
Second.
Thank you.
But we don't currently collect demographic information. We do collect where the complainant lives, but we don't collect age or sex or any other kind of information.
Is there any reason
about people.
Is there any reason you cannot do that?
We could, but for the most part, we don't want that to be part of our complaint, that, you know, somebody would, you know, we would want to give more weight to complaint from a senior citizen than, you know, somebody younger. Or
I think we need to know the extent of the problem with seniors. That's why I would say age range is probably good information to collect. I also think demographic information about income or, you know, would also let us know whether they're targeting certain demographics. But we don't have to specify. We can just say demographic information and leave it up to the AG's office to figure out what's appropriate.
Okay. So Delegate Jackson, did you have another comment or not? Are we?
No, Delegate Watson is, she's on it, so.
She's on it? Okay. Delegate Pippi.
Yeah, Mr. Sakamoto Wango, I think Delegate Watson's giving you a great path to success here. You already have a website up and running, so there goes the fiscal note. You just got to add a tab to it and get some pertinent information. I think that's probably the best approach, and it's probably in the public's best interest to have that as well. Doesn't seem like a heavy lift. Let's go ahead and move it and move on.
Okay, sounds good to me as far as movement. So I guess council need to kind of figure out, how do we do this? You don't have it drafted yet, so do we move
Voice,
it?
voice
You can
amendment.
do it. Yeah, it's a voice amendment in
Okay.
concept. If I could though, before we vote on it, can I list off what I believe that Delegate Watson said and just
Yes.
to make sure that I didn't leave anything
Sorry,
off?
Mr. Chair. It's fine with me.
Okay. All right, so is this report going to be an annual report first?
Yes.
Or is this like, okay.
That was
so
my
we're gonna-
thinking, yes.
Okay, so the amendment's going to be an annual report on the number of robocalls and spam calls that come into the Attorney General's office. You want the number of complaints per month, the category of call. Do you want me to specify, or is that something that's left to the Attorney General?
Do we need to specify, Mr. Attorney General?
no, I don't. I think it would probably be better to leave it
Right.
vague.
Okay. The date and time of the call, demographic information, we said we were going to leave that open. Geographic information, and any other information that the Attorney General believes is relevant. I'll word it better than that, but.
Yes, and do we want the report at a certain time of the year? So it would take effect July 1.
Before the legislative session,
So
right?
probably, depending on how much you wanted to do, October, November,
Yeah, that sounds good.
your choice. Which one? October, November?
October.
November 1st.
Oh, November, okay.
November
That gives them a
1st?
little few months to implement it.
Okay.
He's
Okay,
not sure why.
One more thing, are we going to require the AG to do regulations, or that's you guys' choice?
What do you mean? To do regulations for what?
So do regulations for this, so specifically, what is the category of the call, or you can just require them to It's your choice.
Personally, I would say they're competent enough to figure this out without having to establish regulations, which would be easier for them. But if they don't do what we like, we can always come back.
All right,
I mean,
understood.
Sakamoto Wanago, would you assure the committee that you guys can do this without regulations?
Yes.
All right. I think I have
Okay.
everything I need for the voice amendment.
Delegate Watson, is that all she needs right now?
Yes.
Madam Chair,
Yes. Delegate.
the only other question that I have based on this discussion, whether you still want to require the print, radio, or television advertisement.
That was on the
So
tip of my tongue.
I was just throwing the question out. I don't
Yeah.
have a whatever, but
It says print, radio, or television advertisements. You could just say provide notice to the public through advertisements informing consumers. And then they could use web, digital.
mhm.
So we want to reword what's currently in the bill regarding that.
Page 2, line 13.
Mhm.
Understood.
Okay,
So
so we're just taking out the specific ways through print,
Right.
radio, or television.
correct.
Okay, but we're saying provide notice to the public through advertisements?
Yes.
Okay,
I mean, unless somebody can think of a different word that's better.
Question, Madam
Delegate
Chair.
Pippy? Yes.
Thank you. I was just going to say, I mean, just to make it easier they have a website. They could easily put like a ticker, like on the website, like a banner.
Right.
People go there, they'll see that there's a new section where someone can make a specific complaint about robocalls. That might save them some money. And also, we're kind of in the discovery stage of this. If we do this for a year, we'll kind of see what we're dealing with before making them do advertisements. I don't know. I mean, I imagine that would make it easier on them, but they could easily on their website put like a banner or something, say, hey, file a complaint related to robocalls. That'll pop up on Google and things of that nature. So that
I would
should-
consider that an advertisement.
Yeah, it's an advertisement. Yeah.
So I mean, I would consider that meeting the requirements of the bill.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But we could take away the print and all the other stuff.
Right.
Okay, Steve Sakamoto Wango. Have your
Thank
hand
you,
up.
Madam Chair. Yeah, I was going to suggest that, I think there are other statutes where we have a duty to try to educate the public. And I think language to that effect would be better than advertisements because we don't really have a budget for advertisements. So if you were able to adopt language to that effect, that would.
So advertisement to you means something more than education and awareness campaigns. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I mean, I would read advertisements as we'd have to put stuff on TV or radio or the internet ads or in print.
I'm fine with communication, social media, whatever sort of awareness, but what's the
You could
thoughts on
just
that?
you could change that line 13 instead of saying provide notice to, provide notice to the public through, you could just say educate the public of this initiative through existing channels. Or you could just say educate the public.
okay.
Leave it
I'll figure out how to wordsmith
Yeah,
that.
Council, I think you're aware of what we're trying to get to. You're good with that?
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
All right, so now we have two things we need to do by voice vote. Is that the case?
Yes. And there's a motion on the first one.
And the motion's already on the first one for reporting. All right, so we want to do the voice vote on the reporting one. Do we need to reread that or we're good? We're good? We're good. All right, so we're just going to take a voice vote. All in favor of the amendment on reporting. Is that your hand up, Watson, or a question?
Aye.
Aye, okay. Opposed?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, gotcha. Did you get that? Okay. All right, Now, the second, I guess the second motion amendment is the changing of advertising to be reworded to
Educate the public.
education campaign. Can you give us council some sense of what that is? Or just give me a statement so we can vote on.
I mean, we can say educate the public or create an education campaign. I understand what you guys are going for. If you could trust me, I
Yeah.
just can't.
Basically,
We'll
it's
get something
educate the
there.
public. Educate the public
Educating the public.
about the
But
initiative.
I will make it, I will
Action.
get everything that you guys are
No
trying
problem
to.
with that. All in favor of that by hand? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, 2 opposed on that, okay. Mouse, did I get you? You were for, it, right?
I am
right.
all,
He's all in because he wants to make sure these robocalls are not impacting his community. Got you. Okay, so now are we going to move this bill favorable with the 2 amendments?
Madam Chair,
Yes, sorry, missed that. Go ahead,
If-
Delegate Adams.
thank you. If I may attempt to read between the lines for the Attorney General. I would hate to be the entity receiving visceral calls from citizens in the state of Maryland losing their minds over these robocalls with the impression that the Attorney General could actually do anything about it. And we're inviting a nasty set of circumstances where the AG says, yes, we're collecting the information, but no, we can't do anything about it. And the problem is, if you take this sort of legislation to its logical conclusion, which is, can the AG's office actually do anything about it? I think we hit this logical dead end, which is the Commerce Clause. It's the, this is a federal preemption. And my memory is we've had these bills in the past. The delegate from Frederick County, Afzali, brought a bill like this in the past. And while in spirit, I would support that if we could actually end robocalls, I think that we're asking the AG to dig in on something that they have no teeth. So I'm going to oppose this bill. And my joke about C.T. Wilson, it's his bill, and he's the one that says if we're already doing it, why don't we just pass the bill because there's no reason to oppose it. But in my humble opinion, the fact that the AG's office is already sort of addressing it is probably the far limit of what they can do in a traditional sense anyhow. So I'm going to, maybe Steve opposes everything I just said. My guess is that this is probably something they'd prefer not to dig in on. So that's my 2 cents.
Understood. Any other comments? Okay, so we're still going with favorable with amendments. Is that correct? Did we get a motion for that?
Move favorable with amendments.
Second.
Okay. All right, so we have that move. All in favor of favorable with amendments, say aye.
Aye.
Oh, no, you have to take a roll call on this. I'm sorry.
Oh.
Sorry, we gotta do a roll call. So forget that.
Adams,
No.
is Crosby? No, he's not here. Okay, Jackson,
Yes.
Mounts,
yes.
Hippie,
Yes.
Rogers,
Yes.
Watson.
Yes, and I just want to explain my vote real quick. Because Delegate Adams, if, first of all, the AG can put something, any kind of disclaimer or information on the website that they wish, saying exactly what they can and can't do. Number 2, they can report it to the federal government, which is in itself something that they can do. And number 3, it very well may bring about issues that they're not aware of with regard to fraud, for example. So I think the reporting function does serve a purpose for our constituents. My vote is yes.
Touche.
Did we get everyone? Is that the list? Watson was the last person. Okay.
Yes, it's everybody.
Thank you very much for that. That was a little longer than I expected. Try to see
Yeah.
how much we can get through on HB 1235. So HB 1235, I believe Bill came into committee with an amendment to make it a study. That there were several folks who were already listed in the amendment from the sponsor of the bill to be part of the study. And I think since then we've gotten some more as well. So I guess the question for us may be looking at who's coming on to the work group and if that's an issue or not. But council, you want to briefly describe the bill for us, please?
Sure. So HB 1235 unamended, when it came in, establishes several restrictions on entertainment event ticketing systems, transfers and resales. So there is one amendment, as Delegate Queen says, it's from the sponsor, which strikes the bill and establishes the work group on consumer protection and entertainment events and ticketing practices. The work group will consist of 18 organizations with interests tied to the subject matter, and the work group will report its findings by October 1st, 2022. And that's it.
Okay, and but we've had 2 more amendments to come in since then. Is that correct?
Yes, so this one, yeah, there's 18. I know we had one from, was it the Baltimore
Orioles came in.
Orioles?
And someone else came in, I think it's up to 24 people at 24 groups.
Oh, I didn't see that one.
That might have come in yesterday.
Yeah, I didn't.
Night. Steve Sakamoto Wango, your hand up from this bill?
Yes, it's for this.
Okay.
So, but I think most of the people on this subcommittee weren't here, but a few years ago, at the chairman's request, we did have a work group that involved most of these parties that are supposed to be part of the work group. And basically, the parties couldn't agree to the shape of the table we would meet at, let alone anything else. So we reported that back to the chairman, and so I'm not sure if we're going to be, devoting resources to staffing a work group. I'm not sure what would be different, with this time around than the last time we tried this, which wasn't all that long ago. But the ticket resellers and the venues and the original ticket sellers, just can't see eye to eye on anything here in this arena. So.
Understood. Delegate Adams.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So this has been before us in different varieties. I've been on the committee for 7 years now, and it usually comes down to a sporting team owns the rights to sell tickets in the manner they so choose, and then you have the consumers who can get upset about the fact that they can't do a certain thing. But just remember, and this what I remember from these debates is that a team like the Washington football team, I'm a season ticket holder, and my interest is to make sure when I show up at the ticket booth is that I can actually get into the stadium and watch the game. So usually these teams are trying to assert protections so people don't show up at the game and their tickets invalid or fraudulent. And I'm not sure what this work group's even going after, because it seems like we're coming back with a watered down version of a bill that we've heard before. And to what end? Because the Baltimore Orioles are going to do what I think is that they own the rights to how they're going to ticket. I mean, obviously they want people to show up at the stadium, so they're going to be consumer friendly in that regard. And I can say, as a season ticket holder for the football team, it's not hard for me to have taken my cell phone and transfer my tickets to whomever I so choose. And I just see see where we head with that. Unless you're going to start taking away the rights of the teams to market and or promote their and sell their tickets. I don't see, and this is the second time it appears that I'm agreeing with the Attorney General's office on this, that we've treaded this territory before, and that's my 2 cents. Be glad to listen in on other conversation.
Okay, thank you, Delegate Jackson.
I just wanted to see if council can describe what exactly this work group is trying to accomplish, I guess.
So if you look down here or on section F, subsection F, it says the work group shall study consumer protection as it relates to entertainment events and ticketing practices and make recommendations to improve consumer protection. I believe
that's so broad, isn't it?
It's extremely.
What does that even mean with regards to ticket holders or events? Like, I don't.
So that's why this bill is here, so that you guys can discuss this. But I think the overall issue, because I don't know if you all recall, Delegate Brooks had another bill that was in as well on tickets, but he withdrew that in hopes of getting both of these bills together and just talking about the whole thing holistically. I think there are a lot of times people try to like sell tickets, and they'll get a ticket that's been resold, and then like a venue or somebody will tell them that they can't have a resold ticket and things like that. So it's trying to look at issues like that and decide, you know, should that be allowed? Should that not be allowed? But like you said, this charge is extremely broad.
So the study that was done, as Delegate Adams was saying, was it specific to this issue?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure. You'd
Yeah.
have to ask.
It was the exact same issue.
Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Second.
Thanks, Delegate Jackson. Yeah, it was the exact same issue, the issue of, you know, limits on people's ability to resell tickets, whether, you know, venues can require, you know, prohibit you from reselling your ticket or limit you to only reselling through a certain website. You know, whether they can require you to have ID and an exact match on the name on the ticket.
Okay. And we wasn't able to they wasn't able to come to an agreement.
No, not even close.
I don't know what we're doing then. If the same people, I think it'll be a waste of resources if it's just going to end up the same way. What's different now? I don't know.
Okay, all right, Delegate Adams, is this a hand again?
Yeah, no, I wanted to add, and then I'm going to respectfully make a motion if you don't mind. You know, Meriwether Post Pavilion, I've been many times. I've honestly never had backstage passes, but if I ever did, my guess is the organization or the performer would want to know who's going back there, and there might be some traditional background checks. So if they're ever limiting or restricting who's actually buying the ticket and who's actually going to go show up, I'm sure it's for good reasons. Trust me when I say that the Baltimore Ravens and Baltimore Orioles, Washington football team wants as many happy fans in their stadium as possible. I'm going to, Madam Chair, move unfavorable on the bill. If I can get a second.
I'll second it.
Okay. All right, it's been moved and second. Delegate Watson, I see your hand in here. Do you need me? Did you want to interject something, or are you okay with us?
No, I just want to make sure that I can clarify with the Attorney General's office. Isn't this issue also about protecting consumers from aggressive resellers who sell venue tickets before they have them, or, you know, and who otherwise, you know, consumers go to a website that looks like it's Meriwether Post, but it's really not, and it's some ticket reseller who's selling at exorbitant prices and they think they're buying it from Meriwether, for example. I mean, isn't it about consumer protection as well? Isn't this whole issue?
That is part of the issue. I mean, there are a whole bunch of issues here. And I know the chairman had a bill either last session or the session before dealing with the speculative ticket buying, because he had been the victim of somebody who sold him a speculative ticket and turned out not to have the ticket. So that's already prohibited, as well as, there have been prior bills that prohibited misleading website names for,
Okay.
so making it sound like, you're Meriwether Post Pavilion when you're not.
Well, is there anything else that your office has thought about doing or passing or has noticed as a problem in terms of consumer protection with regard to these issues?
Well, we have brought actions where there hasn't been adequate disclosure. So if you are going to say, if you buy a ticket from us, you and only you can use the ticket and you can't resell it, that has to be disclosed. We did have, a settlement with Ticketmaster several years ago because they were redirecting people to their resale website without telling them. So people thought they were buying, the ticket to the concert. And what was happening was they were really being sent to a resale website. So we had a settlement with Ticketmaster over that practice. But a lot of it is, whether there's adequate disclosure of what's going to happen when you buy a ticket.
But you already have those rules in place, or that law, right, in place? It doesn't need.
Right. The law's already in place about disclosure of
Thank you.
material facts or misrepresentations. And there are laws regarding, ticket sale website names. I believe it was Delegate Frick's bill, as well as, what was the other issue? Yeah. And as far as, the speculative ticket and what kind of disclosures you have to make if you're selling tickets on spec. So that was the chairman's bill.
Okay, I think we have a move unfavorable. It's been second. Can we take the roll call on that?
Absolutely. Delegate Adams,
I as to the unfavorable.
Oh, I didn't see any more hands. I'm sorry. Did you have a hand up, Delegate Rogers?
Yes, Madam Chair. I just wanted to make sure I knew what the motion, we did a lot of conversation with the motion on the floor is.
Yeah, so basically the motion on the floor is that we're moving this bill unfavorable. The dialogue has been that we have looked at this before.
I got it. Yes, ma'am. I just wanted to make sure it was an unfavorable. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Yeah, okay.
okay. Delegate Adams,
I as to the unfavorable.
Delegate Jackson,
Aye.
Delegate Mouts,
Aye.
Delegate Pippy,
Aye.
Delegate Rogers,
Aye on the unfavorable.
and Delegate Watson.
Aye.
Okay.
Okay, subcommittee. Well, thank you so much for the lively discussion of these bills, and we will see them in full committee. Thank you for your time. Have a good evening.
Thank you, Chair.
Everybody.
Hey, Chairman, well, when is,
Yes.
full committees when? Do we have full committee today?
Not today, not today, not today.
Oh, so we'll see each other on the floor.
We'll see each other on the floor.
Yeah, it just scared me.
We'll see these bills in full committee.